What does Apple have up their sleeves? I don't know, but believe me, I have some ideas. All roads seem to point to one place. It's totally reasonable, totally justifiable, makes perfect sense. What is it? Anybody want to take a guess? Apple is going to buy somebody. Somebody big. Big, big. Ready? I know everybody's already like, bullshit, not gonna happen, doesn't make any sense. Well, why would Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, two people who are pretty much categorically at opposite ends of the spectrum, Steve Jobs, hardware company, Apple uses software to sell hardware, really a hardware company, Mark Zuckerberg, in the cloud social network, not a whole lot in common. Steve's old enough to be his father. They don't have any prior business together. Why does Steve have Mark over his house for dinner? If you saw the keynote the other day, there were tons of hints. Tons. Facebook references, 5 within the first 30 minutes alone. Maybe 33 minutes alone. First one was by Steve. Phil Schiller had the next 3. 5 in 30-something minutes about Facebook. Facebook enhancements, Facebook integration, Facebook comments. Whatever you put on Facebook in a photo is now an iPhoto. Whatever your friends say about that photo on Facebook is now an iPhoto. You can email directly to Facebook. All these things. That's very unlike them. Why are they talking so much? Why do they suddenly care so much about your integration with Facebook? Clearly, Apple recognizes the importance of the social graph. I mean, they come out with Ping. It's all music, maybe someday the App Store, integration so you can see what people are buying in music and apps and podcasts and everything else. Right now, it's, just our music and stuff. But they understand the importance. Why, though? Why do Ping? It's stuck in iTunes. It's only specific to music. People can't really say what they want to say. It's a teaser. It's bait. It's Apple saying, we understand the importance of the social graph. Don't make us write a social network. We can. We'd rather not, though. But look, we're in that space. We need to be there. We understand that. We'll compete for it. Pay attention. During last week's Apple earnings call, somebody asked Steve, you've got $50 billion in the bank. What are you going to do with that money? Why haven't you given it back to shareholders in forms of dividends or buybacks? And Steve acknowledged that, that has been brought up to us. We don't like to let money burn a hole in our pocket. We don't run out and just buy something stupid. But we think that there's a very important acquisition, a major buy, in our future. That's what we use that kind of money for. If you just win like $100,000 and somebody says, what are you going to do with that money? You don't say, I'm going to go buy a sandwich. There's a disparity between the cost and the amount of money there. You got $100,000, what are you going to do? I'm going to pay off my debt. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to put a down payment on a house. You just won $50. What are you going to do? Going to go out to a nice dinner. You see, you have $50 billion. What are you going to do? We're going to buy something. They're not talking about some $50 million mapping technology or some GPS company or, some little stupid thing. $50 billion, what are you going to buy? Something that requires a shitload of money. Like, I don't know, 20 billion-ish. All right, let's just jump right into the deep end of the pool on this. Here's why this is legitimate and important. Apple's a hardware company. Always has been. All right? iTunes, for example, software, not a moneymaker. iTunes puts iPods in the hands of everybody using the software to sell hardware. iOS, not a moneymaker. iOS is cool. iOS is what sells iPhones, puts iPhones in people's hands. That's what makes their money. Now, do people think that the iPhone is as cool or iOS is what's cool? Apple's using iOS to sell iPhones. However, it's the iOS that's actually doing the selling. People are attracted to that, so they're buying the phone. That's Apple's market. But this social space, Social media is so gigantic it can't be ignored. Apple knows that. We talked about ping, so this is what they're doing. They want to make this move. They need to get into the social space. Take your iPhone, for example, right? What do you think is the most popular application? Maybe not in downloads, maybe not in overall gross because it's free. Time spent. Money. Put money. That people throughout the day spend more time on their iPhone, on their Facebook app, than any other one thing. Email, you're not doing long emails on this thing. That's what your computer iPads are for. So, what? Facebook. More than phone calls, more than text, I guarantee it. What if Apple owned Facebook? What if you had the ability to take a picture, swipe up, or do whatever you're going to do, open up a widget of some sort, and push right to Facebook? Now you're not leaving one native app to go to a third-party app. Facebook and your phone become integrated. This becomes Facebook in your hand. 350 to 400 million Facebook users immediately have an iTunes account. They have an Apple ID and an iTunes account. Every Facebook user is now integrated with iTunes, sharing their musical tastes, because it's one big thing. One giant ecosystem. How is that not cool? Microsoft tried this with the Kin and its 45-day shelf life before they pulled it. Another epic failure. Unbelievable. Anyway, they had the whole idea. Instead of having apps, they had your loop. They had, so it, you're in the loop. That was their thing. So in your loop, you had different little widgety type things. Photos, for example. So in your photos, there's photos you took, photos you got sent, photos that are on your Facebook, photos that were on your MySpace for the 3 people that still use it, whatever. Point is, you had photos and it was all integrated. But it was still third-party integration. If Apple owned Facebook, this would be one thing. One ecosystem, no third-party integration. It would be one and the same. They're in that space. All the Apple haters, all the people on Facebook, everybody now makes an Apple product part of their daily life. Anybody who touches Facebook is now using an Apple product. Market share, ubiquity, growth, out of that niche market. They leaped out of the niche market when they made the iPhone. And now Mac sales are up. And then the iPad and Mac sales are up. The iPod started this. The iPhone propelled it. No longer a niche market for artists, graphic designers, photographers. Do you see where this is going? There's more. The real cool part. Who wants to be Facebook more than Facebook? It's not Twitter. I know that's what you first thought was. No, it's not. Who? Who really wants this? Google. Who's got a crappy relationship, continually souring with Apple? Google. And you know what? I don't give a shit what you think about Android. They can't keep up with the iPhone and handsets. 240 different handsets across the globe. 160 different versions of the OS. Every manufacturer lays some UI on top of it to make it user-friendly. Let's just narrow it down to one carrier, Verizon. You have multiple manufacturers. Let's take one manufacturer, Motorola. You've got the Droid X, and the Droid 2. One manufacturer on one carrier. You have 3 different Android phones. App stores. Google has an app store, Motorola wants an app store, Verizon wants an app store. So now your users have to pick a carrier, pick a manufacturer, sift between the differences on all their phones and pick one of those, and then manage their downloads from 3 different app stores, 3 repositories of information. What a pain in the ass that is. Not going to happen. They can't keep up. Apple wins the handset market. Bottom line. Bottom line. However, Apple can't touch Google in the cloud. They just can't. Google's been around longer. It's their thing. What have I been telling you? Apple is a hardware company, traditionally has been. That's not the future, though. The future's off of the hardware, off of your desk, out of this box, up in the cloud. When Walt Mossberg asked Steve Jobs at D8, he said something about, how do you feel about losing the war, or why do you think you lost the war, the desktop war, to Microsoft? Steve said, we never really saw it as a war. I guess that's why we lost. We've always been concerned about making great products. They recognize that great products include global connectivity, up in the cloud, social space. And the social graph is so important. They know that. Think about this. It all comes together. Who else gets a little kick in the pants on the way out? Let's say they do buy Facebook. Let's say this really happens. What else about Facebook? What else is there? One thing that you see no matter where you go, no matter what app you're using. Flash. Apple hates Flash. They don't hate Adobe, they hate Flash. In turn, Adobe hates Apple. Very schoolyard, recess type response. Whatever. Point is, do you think Mark Pincus, the guy at Zynga, the guy that owns Zynga, the guys that make Mafia Wars in Yoville, Farmville, Fishville, Catville, Dogville, whateverville, those guys, do you think they're going to look at Apple and go, bullshit, we're keeping Flash, we don't care what you say? I don't think so. Don't think so. They're going to shit-can Flash in the blink of an eye in favor of HTML5, open standard, open source. Facebook will support it. Jobs is a huge fan of it. They're not going to turn their back on that revenue stream. That puts Adobe to a decision for all its chips. What the hell do we do now? HTML5 is not even natively supported in the newest Dreamweaver, CS5. You got to download an add-on to it. That's how bad Adobe's trying to keep you away from HTML5. It's spiteful. It's nasty. Flash is over 75% into its life cycle without this buy. Without it. 2 years tops. That's what I give it. This happens, less than that. Dead. Immediately. So, in one check, Steve Jobs writes one check. And he gets a kick in the pants to Google and to Adobe, expands his presence, expands their market, puts an Apple product in the hands of every Facebook user. It's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. I think so. Wait, one more thing for you. You've heard all the reasons why I think this is true, why I think this is something that's going to happen at some point. Make your own decision. But before we go, let me just leave you with some food for thought on the way out, as if this wasn't enough. How come Facebook has not had an IPO yet? Why has Facebook not gone public with as much money as they've been making and what they're worth? No board of directors, not publicly held, not answerable to shareholders. Somebody comes along with the right amount of money. Sure, here are the keys. Thanks for your money. It's yours now. They've talked about IPOs for a while. Haven't done it. Why do you think that is? And who's got the capital? Who's got that cash in the bank to make that happen? And all the reasons. Still think I'm crazy? We'll talk to you later. Big the Geek every week.